Hey everyone, it's Brendan with Cusack Prep here, coming at you with another video to help you solve trig identities. So here we have the trig identity 1 over tangent of x plus tangent of x is equal to 1 over sine of x. Now how can we solve this identity? Well, first when I look at this, I notice two things. I notice the left side is a little bit more complicated, and the reason we know the left side is complicated is because it has two separate terms, and it also has tangent. The right side has sine and cosine, and it's only one term. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose to work from the left-hand side. Comparing these two functions, I don't see really any kind of trig identity that's popping out to me that might be helpful. So I'm probably not going to try to work with that. Since I only have sine and cosine on the right side, I think it's a good idea to go ahead and switch everything to sine and cosine. So let's see what happens when we do that. Well, 1 over tangent of x is going to become 1 over sine of x over cosine of x. And I'm going to make this line extra long and maybe darken it up a little bit. The reason I'm going to do that is just going to help me visualize later in the problem. This tangent of x is going to become sine of x over cosine of x. And once again, I'm not going to mess with the right side of the equation. I'm just going to keep it 1 over sine of x cosine of x. So what we can do after this? Well, dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So 1 over sine over cosine is the same as 1 times cosine over sine. So essentially, when I have a fraction in the denominator, I could just bring it up to the numerator by flipping it. So this is going to become cosine of x divided by sine of x. This is sine of x over cosine of x. And again, my right side is not really changing. It's going to be 1 over sine of x cosine of x. So I take a look at this and I say, okay, I have two terms on the left side. Everything's in terms of sine and cosine. And I have one term on the right side. So what can I do? Well, I need to find the least common denominator between these two fractions. So if this fraction has the denominator sine, and this fraction has the denominator cosine, my LCD, which I'm going to write up here, least common denominator, would be sine of x times cosine of x. So what I need to do is I need to multiply this fraction by cosine of x over cosine of x. And I need to multiply this fraction by sine of x over sine of x. When I do that, going to the next line, cosine of x times cosine of x is cosine squared of x divided by a sine x cosine of x. Sine of x times sine of x is sine squared of x divided by sine of x cosine of x. And this needs to equal 1 over sine of x cosine of x. So now I can go ahead and just add these two fractions together, right? Once I have the same denominator, I can add straight across the top. So this becomes cosine squared of x plus sine squared of x over sine x cosine of x. And this is good. We can see that we're really moving towards our final answer because our denominator is now the same as the denominator on the right side. Sorry, this should be a squared there. Now, I'm going to go ahead and look at this, and you need to have that trig identity memorized. Cosine squared of x plus sine squared of x. Well, that just equals 1, right? And so anytime you see that, you should almost automatically, pretty much always, just turn that into 1. So then this equation becomes 1 over sine of x is equal to 1 over sine of x. Cosine of x. Sorry, I forgot to write the cosine. So you have 1 over sine of x cosine of x equals 1 over sine of x cosine of x. And that's it. We've proven the identity that was presented to us in this problem. Thank you so much for watching.